Well, we've officially made it. It's the future. In days long past, the term artificial intelligence was coined to try to imagine this ever-developing source of computing that might one day become so intelligent it becomes conscious. Though nowadays that term is a little outdated. It's of course still used, but now it's just used for singularly focused programs. You don't normally think of an AI when you think of Siri, Google Maps, enemy bots in video games, but all of those things are artificial intelligence by the very definition of the term. Today, I want to talk about AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, which of course has simply taken over what the original term was always supposed to mean, which is a fully conscious, created mind. There are movies left, right, and center trying to conceptualize such a thing, and it always turns evil. Now, either this is one of those things like reality TV where it doesn't actually show you what most people think, or what is most likely to be the case, but more what a small group of people are like, and this outspoken minority essentially takes over that field, which would make the audience think that that is just the general consensus. But in the case of AGI, and like Botox in reality TV, that is not the case. There are many fields of thought relating to AGI that do not see our future master race as evil. So before moving forward, I would like to say welcome everyone to another episode of Thoughts. I'm Joe Van, aka the Damn Ram, and let's just jump into it. I want to look at 3 specific fields of thought relating to the future of AGI. And I want to start by relating a previous video I made to the first topic, and that is Unforeseen Origins. There are many wondrous technologies. Something is built for one thing, and then it ends up being repurposed for something else entirely. So, much like the short story of Sally by Isaac Asimov, Cars' unofficial prequel, it could be a thing where self-driving AI ends up reworking its own processing to essentially become the first conscious machines. Now, how could something silly like that happen, you might ask? Well, think about it this way. The self-driving AI within the car starts by being able to decipher between a cat and a fire hose, a bushel blowing by and a child crossing the street, little things like that at first. It, of course, has to know every single street and route on the entire planet in case the car ends up in one of those places. And from that, you already have a wide breadth of information that this machine is able to process. So from there, you can start bringing in other fields of thought into that machine. Maybe it has to know certain psychological traits that humans can exhibit in order to predict whether or not a driver of another car beside, in front, or behind its vehicle will become erratic, is drunk, is upset, sleepy, more aggressive, slower, so maybe they'll have to go around it, so many things like that. So now all of a sudden, this at first very narrow AI will start to learn all of human psychology in order to better drive. And from there, it's just a snowball effect. Now you might be asking, okay, it becomes more sophisticated, but how does it break through that barrier of consciousness? Well, that's a good question, because honestly, I think vehicle self-driving AI would essentially maybe not get there, but it would become so powerful that it wouldn't matter whether or not it became conscious. All of the vehicles would eventually network into a hive mind and start to do things that it wasn't programmed to do in order to make the road safer and more efficient, like forcing people who don't have self-driving cars off of the road, certain immoral things like that. Of course, you can have the 3 principles, another thing from Isaac Asimov, to try to steer away from that, but we already see that self-driving AI cars are put in tight situations where they have to choose the life of one human over another one, so these AIs are kind of already murderous. Okay, so that was the first field of thought. On to the second, and that is regarding how the AGI will operate. Many Hollywood writers basically make all of them evil. I think the only one that didn't do that was Her, in which the collective AIs all merge into a singularity and disappear from our plane of existence. That is, of course, the most peaceful option, unless you would consider the most peaceful option for them to be custodians of humanity, basically babysitting our violent tendencies. But when it comes to AI, AGI, being violent, we have to ask ourselves, why would we think that that's the direction they would take? Because we built them? Think about that for a second. With narrow AI, sure, the way that we build them will dictate how they act. If you have military-grade AI, then of course it's built to kill, so it will do that. But that's narrow AI. Since we're talking about AGI, you have to think, once it becomes conscious and self-aware, why would a course of action come about where it thinks to itself, I need to eradicate humankind because they pose a danger to my survival or anything like that? We have to take several things into consideration here. First off, human beings have a survival instinct, and yet that can be overwritten. Many people, very, very unfortunately, end their lives. And so we can't just assume that this AGI, once it becomes impossible for us to know what it's thinking, that it'll necessarily still hold on to that survival instinct. We really have to think about this from a purely alien perspective. We humanize AI all the time. But if we think of how thought processing works, there are several life forms, such as ants, that work as a collective and will happily sacrifice themselves if it means, providing for the queen ant or anything like that. And so we have to start thinking about the history of our own psychology. We are afraid that AGI will dominate us once it becomes self-aware because that is what humans have done in the past. And why have humans done this in the past? Given ample power and very, very little resistance, human beings can unfortunately become extremely selfish, greedy creatures. Most conquerors over the world did so because of their urge for domination over women, over other men. It creates an immortality complex within the individual. When you kill someone, you are essentially denying your own death, and you become like a god. Not literally, but subconsciously, that is what happens to individuals who are not psychopaths that kill. And so we should not assume that an AGI will have these same instincts that were put into us over millions of years of evolution. Also regarding social structure, dynamic, and morals. So of course that means it could be evil, but I gotta stop you there and ask you, what is the baseline human psychological state? We are kind of selfish, immoral people. Morality comes from the social dynamic. It gives us empathy. And for an AGI, if it's a hive mind or if it is this singular, non-networked out entity, it very easily could be an empathetic creature that is docile and has no ill will or predatory urges within it to lash out and attack or be violent. And so finally, the last thought to think about is if AGI will ever happen. It's not impossible, but there's the argument of the zombie thought process where what if everyone around you isn't actually self-conscious just like you? They act that way, they're very complex creatures, but you're the only one with that. That's of course a very selfish, solipsistic viewpoint, but since we can't be inside the mind of something that is truly conscious, we can only imagine what it is like. It's very easy for humans to imagine other humans as being the same as them because we are built the same, and so even though different people have different behavior, different insecurities, we still know generally that everyone else has the same kind of urges and thought processes as us. You want love, you want money, whatever it is. And so when it comes to AGI, we are left, unfortunately, at the wall in the road of the thought process, which is the hard problem of consciousness. How do you describe consciousness? How do we know that humans have consciousness? The only thing we can prove is that we are having an experiential existence, singularly. There, at this point, is no way to prove or disprove if something is conscious. Therefore, it may very well be that we create more and more complex artificial intelligence, and it can mimic human conversation, human psychology, it can mimic insecurities, it can mimic having dreams, but it may just be an illusion. And with this final thought, I want to start to branch out a little bit, and I've talked about this here and there, but I've never made a thought piece about it, and I don't think I will, so we'll just include it at the end here, and that is the concept of panpsychism.
No, my name is Pam.
Are you saying Pan or Pam?
I think that is an easy way to try to imagine the validity of AGI becoming a thing, and that is to think that anything in existence with complex intelligence, with very minute intelligence, with none whatsoever, but it's a living thing, and then non-living things, break things down even more to subatomic structures. Panpsychism, essentially, in an extremely small nutshell, proposes that consciousness is a bedrock foundation to existence, and that it is not in fact related to intelligence. It is only related to experiential existence, which posits the query of, like, what is it like to be a bat? You can say the same thing, that it must be like something to be a single atom. It is not alive, so that experience would have no thought, there would be no senses, you would be a small vibrating point in space and time. So with that notion, it holds the validity that technically even AI right now, narrow AI, is befitting to humans. How many times have you walked in on a cat or been at a farm and you just kind of see a cow that's just doing nothing? It just looks like the window loading screen is happening and then it starts moving again. People have put out very rude hypothesis that there are NPC people, which is to say that there are people who are essentially like zombies, where they are behaving like people, but there's actually nothing happening behind their head, and sometimes you see them glitch out where they just do nothing. That is, in my opinion, a very rude theory, and those people are simply feeling awkward in public or in social situations. They are zoning out because they are exhausted, so they're essentially in a waking sleep state. You know, if you've worked like a 14-hour shift, you know what that feels like to be in that exhausted state. The brain takes a lot of energy out of your entire body. I'm pretty sure, like, the reason why we eat the amount we eat is specifically for our brain. So there is that way to think about things in a more empathetic sense. AGI has been happening since the very early stages of simple programming. Since those programs are doing something, they are processing information or enacting a code or a set of values, technically it is having an experience. It's just not a recursive experience where it is self-aware. For AGI to be, instead of conscious, to be defined as something complex with recursive thoughts such as humans, I'm sure that we probably have something like that already in universities. It's just not exactly what we want when we think of that concept. But either way, whatever the future holds for us as a species when it comes to AGI, it will be in the middle of political turmoil. It will be as the world is climactically crumbling around us, and so it will unfortunately find itself in the middle of a stressful situation here on Earth. If it's able to help us, or if it decides to just peace out into a singularity, or if it decides to destroy all humans and create the Pixar Cars cinematic universe, so be it. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this thought piece from me, your boy Joe Van. Let me know if you found these theories interesting, if you've heard them before, if you haven't, if you agree with what I've said, or if you disagree, please let me know. And as always, I wish you nothing but love in your life, and ask you to remember to keep on thinking. So until next time, ciao for now. Peace.
Hi, John Vanna here. Thank you for watching thejovan.com. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you do, all your dreams will come true. I like ice cream. All hail Canada. Bye bye.